everyone, my name is Kapalesh, and today we're going to talk about Linux distributions. Now, first, in order to understand what Linux distributions are, we have to talk about what is Linux. Linux is an open source operating system initially developed by Linus Torvalds to compete with Microsoft Windows. It is community-based and it has been used for many purposes, namely servers. Linux is based on Unix, an operating system that was first launched in 1969. The core part of Linux is known as the kernel, which is the part that communicates with the hardware. Distributions, or distros, are different varieties of the Linux operating system, each featuring a different set of features that are added onto the Linux kernel and are targeted towards a specific group of users. Most distros add the graphical user interface, or GUI, to the Linux kernel. And there's a type of Linux for everyone. So I'm going to talk about two of my favorite Linux distros, with the first one being Ubuntu. Probably the most popular Linux distribution, we have Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a Linux distribution managed by the company Canonical. However, it is still an open source project. The pros of using Ubuntu is that it is very user-friendly. It's well known for stability due to its long-term release cycle. It's very polished and refined, and it has a large community of users. However, just like every Linux distro, there's always going to be a certain number of cons. For Ubuntu, those are that personal package archives, or PPAs, for software packages can be a user threat and a huge hassle if they lose support by the developer. And Ubuntu is also a little bit more resource intensive than the other distros. It's a bit outdated due to the long-term release cycle in that it only receives updates every so often, and GNOME is the only desktop environment that is actively supported on Ubuntu. Now let's talk about Manjaro, my most favorite Linux distribution by far. A fairly new yet very respectable distribution, we have Manjaro. Manjaro is based on a distro named Arch Linux, which is very lightweight and oriented towards more experienced Linux users. However, don't let that fool you, as Manjaro adds a friendlier UI while still being lightweight like Arch Linux and retaining some of the main features of it. Some pros of Manjaro include that it is very fast and lightweight. It has access to the AUR, or the Arch User Repository, a large collection of software packages for Arch Linux. It has new features because it practices a rolling release cycle, meaning that updates are released very often. It's very customizable with support for multiple desktop environments, and it has a large community of users. Some of its cons include that it's not as polished or user-friendly as Ubuntu, and although unlikely, stability can be an issue due to the rolling release cycle. Now, because Manjaro delays updates from Arch Linux, so that it's a little bit more stable and that there's more time for those updates to be tested, it's often more stable than Arch Linux. However, some stability issues and bugs can still slip through the cracks. In conclusion, Linux is a great operating system for those who want to get hands-on with their OS. There are many great Linux distributions out there, from Elementary OS to Pop OS for absolute beginners to Arch Linux for very experienced users. There are also more privacy-oriented distros such as Tails. You can even build your own Linux distribution from scratch. There are almost 600 Linux distributions out there, and there is sure to be at least one distro to fit your needs. For me, I think I like Manjaro the best because it is fast and provides a friendlier UI than Arch Linux, while still keeping many of the same qualities as Arch Linux, such as a wide feature set and a large community of users. Thank you for watching. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and comment down below which is your favorite Linux distribution. See you guys next time. Bye.